Institutional Hypocrisy in the Scientific Dismissal of Alien Abduction Claims. An Ethical Reckoning. Author R. L. Poole. Introduction. In every domain of inquiry, be it medicine, criminology, or sociology, when an individual comes forward with a testimony of trauma or violation, it is the responsibility of institutions to investigate the claim, not to reflexively discredit the claimant. Yet in the case of alien abduction experiences, this standard is abandoned. Experiencers are routinely dismissed, pathologized, or ignored, and the burden of proof is placed entirely upon them, with expectations that exceed those demanded in any other context of alleged personal violation. This represents not merely a bias within the scientific community, but an institutional hypocrisy, a systemic failure of both intellectual integrity and ethical responsibility. This paper does not argue from belief, but from evidence. It calls attention to the double standards applied to abduction cases and challenges the scientific community to confront its obligation to investigate credible, documented, and consistent testimonies. It is not the role of the experiencer to act as sole investigator, analyst, and advocate for their own trauma. That burden belongs to the institutions that claim to serve truth. The scientific standard, applied selectively. Science prides itself on objectivity, falsifiability, and openness to new data. In practice, however, alien abduction claims are treated as exceptions to these principles. The standard approach, observe, gather evidence, analyze, replicate, is replaced with dismissal by default. Claims are often excluded from consideration, not because the evidence is lacking, but because the subject matter is deemed too anomalous to warrant serious attention. This is not skepticism. It is institutional gatekeeping masked as methodological rigor. When individuals present consistent physical evidence, such as bodily marks, corroborating video footage, environmental traces, and detailed time-stamped testimony, these would, in any other context, trigger an investigation. In the case of alien abduction, they are met with silence, ridicule, or accusations of delusion. This inconsistency reveals a structural hypocrisy. Science refuses to apply its own investigative tools to phenomena that challenge its current models. The burden shift from investigator to victim. In no other investigative context is a victim of a reported experience expected to conduct their own forensic analysis, produce peer-reviewed evidence, and defend their testimony against institutional indifference. A person reporting a crime, a medical anomaly, or a psychological disturbance is typically met with a response system designed to investigate, support, and verify. In alien abduction cases, that entire infrastructure collapses. The experiencer is expected not only to prove their experience to an impossible standard, but also to withstand the social, professional, and psychological consequences of voicing it. This is not only a scientific failure, it is a moral one. The scientific establishment has abdicated its ethical responsibility to those who come forward in good faith with observable, repeated, and documentable experiences. The call to accountability. The purpose of science is not to confirm what is already known, but to test the boundaries of what is possible. Alien abduction claims represent not a threat to science, but an opportunity for it to demonstrate its value as an open system of inquiry. Ignoring credible evidence due to its implications is not skepticism, it is dogma. The scientific community must be held accountable for this failure, not only intellectually, but ethically. We therefore assert that any field which claims to serve knowledge, discovery, or truth must treat alien abduction testimony with the same procedural seriousness afforded to any other reported phenomenon involving physical and psychological evidence. The burden must shift. It is not the duty of the experiencer to conform to the limitations of current models. It is the duty of the models to evolve when the data demands it. Conclusion. Alien abduction claims exist at the intersection of personal trauma and institutional avoidance. The evidence provided by experiencers, whether photographic, physical, testimonial, or environmental, is often coherent, repeatable, and documented with more care than many phenomena already accepted by mainstream science. Yet the refusal to investigate these cases reveals a systemic failure. Science has allowed fear of ridicule and disruption to override its foundational principles. To continue ignoring these claims is to preserve a double standard that undermines the credibility of scientific inquiry itself. If science is to be worthy of the trust it demands from society, it must apply its methods impartially, even when the subject matter challenges current assumptions. Anything less is not skepticism, but moral cowardice masquerading as reason. It is time for science to reclaim its ethical mandate. The burden no longer rests on those who report the events. It now rests on those who refuse to look. I hereby challenge any academic in associated or related fields to rebut this paper or debate me personally. Thank you.